maintenance and stuff.
So Rav, good morning.
Good morning.
Tell me, the weather prohibited the Youngersville of Scarsdale-ites from making it into DC?
For today?
No, I'm talking about
Oh, last week.
last.
That sounds about right, actually. I think a lot of flights at some point last Sunday started to just be canceled.
Flights were canceled and the trains were canceled.
The trains were canceled. Yeah.
My niece is
Yeah, you know the
Right.
Farbers were there.
harder.
The
No,
Farbers were there, and they were then going back to Scarsdale or back to New Rochelle. And what happened is they cut the trains, so the Farbers had to stay over an extra night.
young men driving.
Right.
Snow.
Yeah.
They were kind of trapped there. Anyway, interesting times.
Yeah. Oh,
Interesting times. Welcome to Purim 2026.
that's right.
Timmy and
Nuva Nahafochu is happening.
it's Bruce. Do you miss me?
I do, Bruce. I do. I enjoyed your company very much. But actually, that's not true. The truth is, I enjoyed your wife's company and I tolerated yours. So, what the hell?
I'm glad you were asleep when we left.
I get a lot of that lately.
All right. Very good. Here we go. So, um, last week we were, I believe, in Sif Dalit, if I'm not mistaken.
No hogging?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think trying to recall what was the last thing we read in the Mishnah Brura. Okay, I think we really kind of were up to Dalit. We maybe read it, but we didn't really go into it. So we'll reread Sif Dalit, and then we'll get into the Mishnah Brura's comments about Sif Dalit. Just before I read it, though, the Aruch HaShulchan here adds something in that is not in the Mishnah Berurah or Shulchan Aruch, so I'm going to mention it. I'm not going to read it inside, but he mentions that when you have a double parsha, Aruch HaShulchan just mentions when there's a double parsha, that he says that the minhag that is widespread is that of the 7 aliyos, 3 aliyos should be from the first parsha, 3 aliyos from the second parsha, and then the fourth aliyah, the middle aliyah, should include some of the first and some of the second parsha. And then what about if they're going to be hosafos on a day when there's a double parsha? So when they're hosafos on a double parsha, he does initially cite this opinion that, if you already have the plan, the Gabbai knows, okay, there are going to be 10 aliyos today, so you should split it up 5 and 5. But the Aruch HaShulchan already says that's not the minhag, though. The minhag is not to do that. The minhag is that the fourth aliyah is always the crossover aliyah between the two parshios, and that doesn't have to be equal. It's fine, This is basically what he says, and that's my observation. Just again, our shul, other places I've been, double parsha. That I can't remember a time actually there was a hosafa on a double parsha, but I'm sure it's happened. It's actually a lot easier for the Gabbayim to know where to stop in a double parsha, which have hosafos, because you have other natural breaks that are already built in. But I don't know that I don't know if I've purposefully observed it, but I believe that the fourth aliyah is always sort of preserved as a crossover aliyah. Not that you stop at the end of the first parsha and then the next aliyah starts with the new parsha in the double parsha situation.
When they're talking about 10, are they talking about three
additionals, 3 osafos? Correct.
Not just
no, not like 10 osafos.
And Galila and one extra.
No. They were talking about 3 osafos.
Yeah.
That I've seen here, by the way. I've seen 3 osafos here before. Yes, seen yesterday we had in the main shul there was one osafa with achron. Correct.
Would you let a kid read the boy read
Zachor? So that was our discussion actually. So this came to fruition yesterday. The shul did not have the bar mitzvah boy read Zachor. Now I don't know if that was
that's correct.
I don't know if that was big kavana, because of this, or that the boy didn't feel comfortable. He learned the parsha, and so he didn't know that. I didn't investigate further, though I should, just for this purposes, that's halachically. But it is interesting to note that after we learned this last week, the bar mitzvah boy did not lay in zachar, right? Because it was kriyas haTorah midoraisa. And who did it though? It was Ofruf, right? It was Smigel who laid it yesterday. So, anyways, getting married, Jacob Smigel. Right, definitely. If you're getting married and you're Zachar eligible.
Raj,
Yes, Simeon, go ahead.
okay, since everybody that goes up for an aliyah is being motzei the entire kehillah, he has to be somebody on whom the obligation falls. And since the bar mitzvah boy is not yet bar mitzvahed, he can't be motzi other people. So in a case where the maftir is not repeated as it is on an ordinary Shabbos, it's unique and read only one time, then you can't let the bar mitzvah boy read that parsha. And to let him read that parsha, read that maftir, is a mistake.
Well, it depends though. If the boy is a bar mitzvah boy, meaning he's 13, Hashanim, he's a bar mitzvah boy. And the other reason that there was a doubt that we talked about was because maybe the physical signs of maturity weren't there that are required halachically. But the chazaka is that once you've reached that age, that's already the case, that the physical signs of maturity are there. But some poskim felt uncomfortable to rely on the chazaka, that just because you've reached the age, because we all know people mature physically at it's around the same time, but everybody is a little bit of a different schedule. And so therefore, maybe with that particular question, they wanted to be more machmir, just to ensure that the person is a physical maturity as well.
So you're saying, irrespective of some kind of formal act, i.e., giving that 13-year-old his first aliyah, he is bar mitzvahed by virtue of the calendar and the ticking clock.
By the calendar and the physical signs of maturity. That's without.
Well, but I thought we don't check that anymore.
We don't. We rely on the
calendar.
Correct, but that's because the calendar establishes a chazaka for us, that most children who are 13 already have the necessary signs of physical maturity to be considered no longer a minor. But that's a chazaka. That's a chazaka. That's an observation that is made, like that. Generally speaking, most children are already in the category of not children halachically. But
and if he doesn't have the Beis Harav,
then sort of a letter of the law, it's a problem. But the chazaka wise, when it comes to dinim derabanan, like kriyas haTorah on a regular Shabbos, where it's not like a zachar, we're willing to rely on a chazaka and not have to do any bedika. So put it that way.
Because the reading of the maftir is the second time.
Well, but for zachar, it's not. It's
right. That's why there is a minhag, and if you read in the Gabai's handbook about not having a bar mitzvah boy read that. My eldest son was bar mitzvah on Parsha Zachar, and he did read it. He did read it because that was minhag hamakom.
Correct.
But actually, I could make the case he shouldn't.
Yeah, there are definitely two opinions on this. Richie, go ahead.
So if we go, we talked about a katan getting an aliyah, and the benchmark was the ability to know who you're making the bracha to.
L'mi mevarchen, Yodea l'mi mevarchen. Correct.
So that is a sign of cerebral maturity,
correct,
rather than physical maturity. Now we get to a bar mitzvah boy, and we're looking for physical maturity. Why the switch?
Because by Zachar, in particular, he has to be motzi everyone else. And in order for like any mitzvah,
No, but I'm
if-
saying the benchmark switches, you know.
because the benchmark is different. Being a regular Kriyas HaTorah, a child is as shaykh as a woman is shaykh, as a man is shaykh. Because the Torah is shaykh to all of us. But when it comes to mitzvahs, right, to being a koreh, right, as long as I understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one who wrote this, who's telling us this, he reads it, the child reads it proficiently.
Okay, but beyond it, it's kind of like a strange.
It's a unique halacha.
Yeah.
Because usually a katan is not a part of things usually.
I mean, it's a
Correct.
how do you check? You know, I mean, it's just an embarrassing thing. You know, it's a very problem.
To check the physical sides of it. That's why we went to a chazaka, right? That the chazaka became okay, because we can all look around and we start to see like, okay, this boy is already growing, you know, like, and we can make assumptions about other signs of physical maturity as a result of, you know, the age at that point. But yeah, here when it's coming to like zachar, this person is being motzi others. So if they're not obligated mida oraisa, they can't help others fulfill the obligation for their doraisa obligation. That's a standard, you know, a principle that applies across mitzvos. Yeah. By the way, and there are many who say it's fine. The chazaka is so strong that it's fine. We can assume the bar mitzvah boy will read.
A while ago, nothing I can do about it now.
No looking back, Richie.
But I was like 13 years and like 8 days. You know?
Right. So even a stronger chazaka, 100%. Okay. So the one more thing here in the Aruch HaShulchan. I don't know if Steve, you have it's in the Sif Yud Gimel. Reish Pebez Sif Gimel. This is Aruch HaShulchan here for just a second, so it's not on the sheets I handed out. But he just explains where does the maftir come from. We're going to talk about maftir now for a moment. So he says, "Even hamaftir hu midnei shahaya zman shegazru anasim, the people who are you know, like an ones, like they're awful, they're evil people, right? They made a gzeira shol likros b'Torah that we the Jews can't read from the Torah. V'hiskinu likros b'neviim, so we decided we'll read from the neviim. How many psukim? Chaf aleph psukim keneged shiva kruim kol echad shlosha psukim. Why do they say 21? Because it's in place of 7 aliyos. An aliyah is minimally 3. 7 times 3 is 20. There you go. Yeah, you're very good. Right.
Whoa.
So we have a minimum of 21 psukim for the Haftorah, right? The correct. This is it's not a perfect rule. You're right. The kinu brachos lazeh kodem haftorah v'achara, and they also established brachos before and after the Haftorah. Similar to sort of Birchas HaTorah before and after, you know, Kriyas HaTorah. Ve'acharkach kishabat lahagzera, when the gzeros against studying Torah, reading public Torah went away. Levat la v'tiknu shehamaftir yikra b'Torah tchila. So they didn't get rid of we're not going to read from the Nevi'im anymore. No, we're going to keep the Haftarah. But now, when we call somebody up to read the Haftarah, before they read the Haftarah, let them read from the Torah first. And this is where the idea of a maftir aliyah came from. But we're going to add another aliyah, and because why he says shalotei shaveh mipnei kavod Torah. Shalotei shaveh kavod navi lekavod Torah. They got called up for Torah. He gets called up for the navi. No. Before he reads from the navi, he's also going to read from the Torah to signify these are not equal, right? The Torah is on a different level, on a different playing field than the navi. And he should make a bracha on this Kriyas HaTorah just like anybody else, before and after. Make a acknowledgement. Look, this one's going to go back and repeat Sukkah that we already read, just to show how much more important, or how much more kabbalah we need to show the Torah than the Nevi'im. Not to denigrate at all the books of Nevi'im, but to give the kabbalah to the Torah. He's going to go back and read what the last guy just read. Okay, so this is okay. Then there's a machlokas about does that person called from after count as towards the 7 or not? Not. But obviously our minhag is that we separate it from the 7. We add an extra aliyah. We do that also on Yom Tov and on Yom Kippur. We don't do that on any day like a fast day or Tisha B'Av, where we have a Haftorah in the morning and we only have 3 people call up. The third person is the Maftir. Just give a little introduction to where the Maftir Aliyah comes from, where the Haftorah comes from. Yes.
Mincha Yom Kippur.
And Mincha Yom Kippur with Yonah, correct. Mincha Yom Kippur is another example. Absolutely. Okay, now, Sif Dalet in the Shulchan Aruch. Nohagim Likros Shiva. Turn the page. V'ligmor imam haparsha v'omer kaddish v'chozer v'korim hamaftir mashikara hashvi. So we have here that the custom is Nohagim. It's customary to call up 7 people and to complete the parsha with them. Okay, and then say kaddish. Okay, then chozer v'kora imam maftir. Go back and read again. Masha Kara Hashvid, what the 7th person read. The maftir person will read that. Now we'll clarify here that it doesn't have to read the whole 7th aliyah over again. That would be Tircha de Sibor, because
21 Pesukim.
No, the maftir aliyah is before the haftorah. The haftorah is what we read from Navi. The maftir is the person who gets the aliyah, who will then read the haftorah. But he first gets an aliyah. I think it is pei tet resh,
What is that?
and it's like it means to conclude, which is why I've once spoken about this in the shul, that the Mishnah that says, and this was not planned. I'm going off the cuff now, but ein maftir nachar haPesach afikoman. The Mishnah, the Arei Psachim, which says ein maftir nachar Pesach afikoman, means that whatever afikoman is, I don't do it. Which means that after ein maftir nachar haPesach, we don't conclude after the eating of the korban Pesach with afikoman, which is why afikoman is incorrectly named today. Afikoman is that what we eat the matzah is there's an English word for this I always forget, where something takes on the characteristic of the name that takes on for some activity relates to only a subset of the whole picture. But afikoman is probably was some sort of prohibition against it was a description of a party where people would jump around from this party to that party to that party, go from house to house to house, and we know that Korban Pesach was only to be eaten in the house, to be eaten by a specific group of people who are counted ahead of time. So afikoman was actually probably a Greek practice of after party merriment, where they would go from house to house to house and be out of control. And we don't do that. After we eat the Korban Pesach, we do not go anywhere else.
Afikomen is actually the ancient Greek word for "we have arrived."
There you go, because they would go from place to place to place after party. So
Right.
a maftir is my point here. This is the word maftir means to conclude. He is the concluding reader of the Torah that morning. He is the maftir. And haftarah is obviously a similar word. It's the conclusion of our reading for that morning. With Navi. Okay. So with that little aside, let's take a look at the Yud Ches and Yud Tes in the Mishnah Berurah. Yud Ches. Ma shenahagu limkor shishi bifnei atzmo. Yesh k'tzas semech mehazohar shlach lecha. So there are some who are accustomed to sell every week. Some shuls sell shishi on its own, and this relates to something that's from the Zohar. I proclaim to be no expert. The 6th aliyah.
They sell it?
Some shuls will sell it for however much people will pay.
What?
Now, it's interesting. Some people say shishi is a very special aliyah, and it comes from obviously from Kabbalistic connections here, and I don't proclaim to understand it. There are some actually who say that shlishi is also a very coveted aliyah. I remember in the shul I used to go to when I grew up, and then when there was a newer shul built when I was in the 9th grade, we were members at the beginning of that shul. But in the old shul that we went to in Columbus, the minhag it was an interesting minhag, and I never understood exactly where it came from. and I still don't fully understand, by the way, I'll be honest, I still don't fully understand where it came from, which is that he got shlishi. Rabbi every single week of the shul got shlishi. Every single week. And
Rabbi,
yeah, do you know where?
when I was growing
Yeah,
up, Shlishi was the most
it was the most coveted aliyah. And so the Rav and right, and then so here my extra comments in the back. This is Indian aliyah shlishi, right? Kasav lahalan lukaman shenagu hakorim es harav av bezdin aliyazo. There was already a long-standing minhag to give the Rav or the av bezdin this aliyah. V'hosei shebishas hatzorach yesh limchol al kvodo. He can be mochel on his kavod if he wants. V'lalo suravi, and he can take ravi. So I don't remember what the custom was in my community. I actually was bar mitzvah in that shul, and a rabbi got an aliyah that day, and I still forget which aliyah he got because my bar mitzvah parsha was bechukosai, and the third aliyah is the klolos, and it's not exactly the most coveted aliyah to get. And I don't remember if he got the aliyah or he took the next aliyah.
So the logic would work though. The Kohen gets first.
Kohen gets first, the Levi, and then you should give the
first Yisrael is probably the. That's why they figured that the first Yisrael is the most coveted.
right. Yeah, it's. I guess so. He doesn't even necessarily explain too much here, other than maybe it's just the obvious star that you're saying. It's the first one that's available after the Kohanim and the Leviim are done. Yep.
So Rav.
Yeah.
So Rav, my understanding was that while shlishi for Yisrael is the most important with chashivus with respect aliyah to get, Ravi and Chamishi less so, and then nobody would want shishi, so we start over again with the notion of chashivus, and the restoration of chashivus for shishi is what the general custom is.
Interesting. Okay. This again, all these things are very much in the realm of minhag. This is not halacha from the Gemara. Now he says here, "V'achron mochrim bifnei atzmo." The achron chaviv shemisayim. The Mishnah Berurah here says, "What about achron?" Last aliyah is. He says actually they sell that one too. There's a lot of good business here going on in the shuls that he's aware of, right? They also sold that one. Why? Because achron chaviv, right? Shemisayim bo.
But an acharon is a hosafa.
And what was that?
An acharon is an hosafa.
Right, correct. Although here, in my extra comments, that I'm not going to read it inside, though, it says, and this is why also, that the last aliyah of the sefer, right, when you're finishing a sefer, also, chazak, that's also a kavadik aliyah,
if you're not having a husabah, do we mean shvi or do we mean?
I think he just means achron, like the last one that's not maftir. I think here it's not maftir. I think it's the last one before Kaddish, when you close out the reading.
Which normally is shvi.
Right.
Correct.
Normally is shvi. Correct.
Right.
Mikol makom, he says here, chas v'shalom, important rule. The Gabayim should highlight this one in their Mishnah Berurah. Okay. Mikol makom chas v'shalom he's kotate ba'avur zeh. Chas v'shalom, there should be fighting about this though. He's rich, but he can pay for this. I'm merely a tailor, and he's there should be no fights. The Gabayim should really should work to make fights over this. This is going to be ridiculous that there should be fights.
Who made him a Talmid Chacham?
Right. Why does he say that there should be no fights over such an issue? Which aliyah? This aliyah? Shlishi. Because why? At the end of the day, Shekol osios haTorah heim kulam kedoshim u'tahorim. All the letters of the Torah are equally sanctified and pure. As it says, Imros Hashem Amoros Tahoros. The sayings of Hashem are pure sayings. Every part of the Torah is incredible. No part of the Torah is better than any other. So at the end of the day, you got the Nebuch Aliyah. There's no such thing as a Nebuch Aliyah. All the Aliyahs are good Aliyahs.
It sounds like Shem Hashem doesn't come up in the last 4 or something, so it's really denigrating that if you turn them into a, doesn't the sofer have to go out and go to the mikvah before they write it?
Right.
Every time.
Right.
So you're
Correct.
denigrating the last few aliyahs. It's ridiculous.
Agreed. Yud Tes, Likros Shiva v'chulei, Tehine min adin, Kaimal on the maftir o leminyan Shiva. So look, by the letter of the law, the maftir should be able to count. If, let's say, there were 6 and a maftir, and that's how it ended up being that morning, that the Kahila, well, didn't do what we typically do, still fulfilled the letter of the law, which is 7 people got called up. 6 for the Parsha, and then the 7th one was the maftir, who repeated something from the Parsha. That was aside from the weeks like yesterday where they have a separate maftir reading. And what you could do, actually, according to the letter of the law, just to clarify here, is you could actually have the maftir be the last aliyah, meaning the parsha is finished with him, meaning what we call shvi. What we could do today, like we do, we could just not call up maftir. We technically could do that and have the shvi'i guy be the haftorah reader, right? You read your 7, the maftir technically by the letter of the law counts towards the 7, and then say kaddish, and then you could go on to to the haftorah, right? But because we want to be yotze all the opinions, even the one that says the maftir doesn't count towards the 7. Likros Shiva Kruim Kodem Shemaschil HaMaftir. That's why we call up 7 before we get to the Maftir. We want to Yotze L'chol Adeos. Okay? Uchdei Lahodia Lakol, in order to sort of make it known to all, Shamaftir, for me it's a turn page here, Eino Miminyan Ha'olim, is not one of the 7. He's not one of the 7. We want to make it clear, everybody. So Tiknu Gamkein Shanochon Lechatchil Lahafsik BaKaddish. That's why the Kaddish is dafka stuck right there. After we finish the Kriyas HaTorah, before the guy who's going to come up, who's going to lay in the maftir, who's doing a bunch of repetition, who's reading at least 3 psukim of repetition, we stick a Kaddish in there to separate between the Kriyas HaTorah of the Olim who were counted as part of the completion of the Parsha, and then the Ole of Maftir. That is what we do. That's why we established that Kaddish in that spot. And therefore, it makes sense also. What if I have 10 kruim on that day? Maftir is number 10. So should I finish 7 aliyos, but 8, 9 still we didn't finish the parsha yet? Because no, it makes sense that when we put the kaddish in, it's when we've completed the Kriyas HaTorah 1 full time. And then there's one more guy who has to come after that. That's where we stick the kaddish in before there. So even if there are 10 aliyos, so okay, after number 9, we say the Kaddish because we just finished the Parsha. And then the guy who does Maftir, he repeats at least 3 psukim that the Shvi or the Achron read. Okay. Let's go to Sif Katan Chaf. Parsha. Now you're supposed to complete the Parsha with these 7. And that's the law is that you can also add on the 7. As the parsha, as we said before, the maftir guy we try not to add him as part of the 7. Right? We don't, and then the 7th guy was also maftir, and then we'll say kaddish. We don't do that. That's not our practice, as we said. Ela Yomar Kaddish, rather we say Kaddish Kodem Kriyas HaMaftir. Before we read the Maftir, U'mela Muchach Ligmor Kol Asidra Mitchila Kodem Amiras HaKaddish. Finish the parsha before you get to that Kaddish. Shekmoshe Kasavnu B'Sif Katan Yotes we read right before this. Okay. Questions so far? Clear? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rob?
Quick question. Go ahead.
Yeah, and not a question, a comment. My understanding about the Haftorah is the notion of reciting Haftorah came much later after Matan Torah and was added in response to a prohibition visited on the head of the Jews about reading from the Torah itself.
That's what we said before. I was reading that Aruch HaShulchan explained the genesis of it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
No, yeah, 100%. You're absolutely right. That is where the Maftir Aliyah even comes from, and the Haftorah.
Yeah, and it has a hint of what the Torah was about.
Correct. Must be an allusion to the Kriya from that morning. Absolutely.
But in the Haftarah, these events it talks about were long after, historically, were long after Matan Torah.
100%. That's right. Yeah, that's the books on the Nevi'im. Yep. All right, let's go to the Ramah now. The Ramah writes here, "V'chein no'agim b'yom tov she'ein maftir miminyan hakruim." And the practice is that on Yom Tov, that the maftir is also not considered as a part of the kruim. We have 5, and then a maftir. Aval b'chol she'aseh lahosif al minyan hakruim, on the weekdays, it is prohibited to add. Why is it prohibited to add? Because we all have to get to work. Tircha de tzibur, you can't start adding aliyos. So there are 3 aliyos and no more. So when it's usher to add, hashlishi hu maftir. The third one is the maftir. Okay, so our practice today. Nothing has changed since the days of the Ramah. Let's look at Chaf Aleph in the Mishnah Berurah, then we'll go back back and forth here. Rotze Lomar, v'chein ogim b'yom tov. Rotze Lomar, shegam b'yom tov, after midina hayamuter hamaftir lios min haminyan chamisha. Even though by the letter of the law, the maftir could have been one of the 5. We don't count the maftir as as part of the 5. We read the parsha that is the obligatory for that day. The Kaddish Omer Mikodem, and then we say Kaddish, and then we get to the maftir. Okay. Nevertheless, even though the one that says that it does count for the minyan is yotze this way. Sorry about that. Sharei rova poskim sovin the mutar lahosif. Most poskim say it's okay to add, meaning, we said earlier, a previous year, only Shabbos you can add. And we said we don't do it on Yom Tov, right? We do, which we don't. We don't really have hosafos on Yom Tov, right? But technically, this guy is a hosafa. But it's just a built into the system hosafa. But we don't. Beyond that, we don't do more. Again, it has to do with the kedusha of Shabbos. We don't want the kedusha to be equal to the kedusha of Shabbos. Okay. All right. Okay. Good. All right. Let's go back to the Ramah. Uveyom shemotziim shnei sfarim, like yesterday. Oshlosha, as is happening this year? No, not this year, because it's kind of Parshas Chodesh is not. Rosh Chodesh is not on Shabbos, right? Or if there are 3 Sfarim, which occasionally can happen. That's very occasional. Chanukah this year we had it. That's right. It can happen Chanukah, Parshas Chodesh when Rosh Chodesh falls on Rosh Nisan falls on Shabbos. Hamaftir Korah ba'acharona. Just to clarify, the maftir is the last guy. He reads in the he's the last. He reads also from the last sefer. Look at Chaf Beis below. When can 3 Torahs happen? Can go Rosh Chodesh, Teves, Shechal, B'Shabbos. Okay, that's when it's Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah. Yitzarach Lichros HaParshas HaShavua, Parshas Rosh Chodesh, Ve'inyan Shel Chanukah. So you have 3 things you have to read. Simchas Torah. Simchas Torah Shetzarach Likros Parshas V'zos HaBracha U'Bereishis U'Parshas HaMusafim. Chol Zeh HaMaftir Bilvad Korah Ba'achrona. The maftir is always the last one to read. In all these situations, he gets the whatever the last inyan is. Okay. Ubein Kishemashlim and Haminyan Oshemosifin Al Minyan. Whether you finish with him the 7, so you do 3 Torahs over 7 aliyos, or you have multiple hosafos. Hakol Olim, Oshemosifin Al Minyan, or you add more aliyos. Hakol Olim Bishnei Svarim Harishonim. Everybody counts when there are 3 aliyos. Sorry, when there are 3 Torahs. The 7 aliyos, our practice is that we should complete them by the conclusion of the 2nd Torah, which is what we do. When we have a thing about what happened this year in Hanukkah, 6 aliyos go to the parsha, 1 aliyah goes to Rosh Chodesh in the 2nd sefer, and then the 3rd sefer, which is maftir, which is the Hanukkah reading, the Parshas Hanasiyim, that's already maftir. We said Kaddish also after the 2nd Kriyas, the 2nd Torah. And yesterday again, before we take the 2nd Torah, and there are only 2 Torahs, the Kaddish comes before the 2nd Torah is then read from. So we always finish the number of aliyos before we get to the last guy. And if there are 3 Torahs, that means that the 7 aliyos are shared over 2 Torahs. That's the one time you'll get a Hagba before you get a Kaddish, right? After the 6 Aliyos, there's a Hagba. There's no Kaddish. You just go right into Hagba and you call up Shvi right after the Hagba.
No repetition for the maftir.
No repetition for the Maftir. Correct, because it's a different topic. Correct.
Right.
And in my extra commentary, I'm not going to read it inside. He does say, "What if?" And I don't know if I've seen this in the team, and it happened once by mistake. But what if somebody says Kaddish after the 6th Aliyah because they're like, "Oh, we're done with the Torah, Yiskadash, right?" Because it's like, "Oh, we finished the parsha." If they make a mistake, do you then say Kaddish again afterwards when it's the correct time? The answer is yes.
Yes.
Why? Because you are trying to separate between the minyan hakruim who counted towards the kriyas haTorah and the guy who's the extra, the maftir. His job is connected to the neviim. We have to call him up for the kavod haTorah to the kriyas haTorah, from sefer Torah first. So we would actually repeat Kaddish again a second time, even though the Kaddish was already said.
But if you made a mistake, you have 7 Aliyahs in the first Torah.
So that's fine because that's just like a hosafa, but you would then I think you would read the Rosh Chodesh and then you would say the Kaddish.
But what if you made a mistake? You already had your 7 Aliyahs,
Yeah.
right? And now you have the last 2 guys,
Right.
number 8 and number 9.
I think we would still wait to do the Kaddish until, even if you made the mistake, you would do Kaddish again because you need to separate out the last person to say he had no shaykhs to everybody else in that sense. And also to signify his aliyah, because we don't want to equate the Nevi'im to the Torah. So this guy, he's only coming here right now to read these few psukim because just to show you, like, we didn't give a separate aliyah to Navi to say, oh, that's equal to this. No, he first came to read from the Torah, and then he'll read the Navi. So I think that's also a part of the picture here. Okay. Let's keep going back in the Ramah now. All right, but Katan, third line towards the end. V'katan yachol likros beparshas hamusafim. A minor could read from the Parshas HaMusafim. So that's like Rosh Chodesh. If that's an extra reading, that's not from the Parsha that week, but a separate thing. That's Parshas HaMusafim, right? That's you have a different.
No.
Oh yes. Oh, ba'arba parshios shemosifim ba'adar, or the 4 parshios that are added in Adar. Which is not a bidiyuk statement, by the way, because Shkalim is added in. Shkalim is added in Shvat. I guess it could if it's Rosh Chodesh. Adar falls out. Can you remind me? Rosh Chodesh Adar falls out on Shabbos. Do we reach Shkalim? It's also 3, right? So you could have a year when it's all the special readings are in Adar. So to defend the Ramah here, you can have it that way. But bottom line, talking about the Daled Parshios. Because really, it's a connection to Purim.
Rav,
Yes, Simeon.
how could you give a katan the reading for Parshas Zachar, which many people hold is a midoraisa obligation?
We don't, but we're going to see why some did. Our practice is not to do this. We'll see why in a moment. And remember, this is the Ramah is bringing this up. He is quoting from some Rishon, like the Ran and the Mordechai, about this, but nonetheless, this is already in a time when the Kriyas HaTorah was being done by a Balkoreh and not the Ole. Okay, so even though obviously the Ole could read, it's not like there's an Isser that the Ole can't read it, but the custom was already there was a Balkoreh for everything now. And let's just keep reading the Ramah here. This is the practice that the Katan would read when there was a separate, not repetition from the Parsha, but a separate thing. A Katan would read. Even though that there were those who disagreed, which is the understatement of Judaism, even though there's someone who disagrees. What Indian does there not a disagreement? But Let's go ahead and close out the Ramah. Then we'll go back to talk about the Katan issue. But Omrim Kaddish Kodem She'ole HaMaftir, as we've already mentioned a few times now, we say Kaddish before the Maftir Aliyah is called up. Ve'ein Chiluk Bazeh Bein Hosifu Al Minyan Hakruma. That doesn't matter if there are 10 Aliyahs. You can have a bunch of Hosafos. Olo Uvein Motziim Sefer Echad or Shlosha. It doesn't matter if there are, Hosafos or no Hosafos. Doesn't matter if there's one Sefer Torah or three Sefer Torah. That is the practice before the Maftir Aliyah. That's where you stick the Kaddish. Now let's go back to the Mishnah Berurah here. We're Chaf Gimel. Be'arba B'dalad Parshios, the Arba Parshios. V'afal Pisha Parsha Zachor Hichova Min HaTorah Sheishma'ena Kol Adam Yisrael. Even though Zachor is an obligation from the Torah that all Jews need to hear. The katan ain't a mechuyev b'davar, because a katan, by the dint of being a katan, is not obligated in this mitzvah. Eino yachol lehotziyam yedei chova. Therefore, a katan cannot help a non-katan, meaning an adult, fulfill this obligation. Like any time a person who's exempt can't help someone who's obligated to do the mitzvah.
Because
Right, Mikol Makom Harei Achshav Hashaliach Tzibur Koreh Umashmiya LaTzibur Umotzia Midei Chovasim. But the difference is, he points out, that nowadays we already have a Shliach Tzibur. Someone else reads it, who's an adult, and therefore no problem. He can be Motzi the Kehila when he reads. That's the explanation. What was that? Katan got the Aliyah, because why the Katan will read that in Haftorah. So he'll get the Aliyah, he'll say Baruch Hu, then you'll have one of our adults read it. This was your parsha, right? This is your parsha, right? So Richie will get up there and will read, and the 12-year-old will get the Aliyah. But so Richie is mechuyev, and I'm mechuyev. He can be motzi me.
he would charge.
So that's the way you have to explain it. So that's why this is mentioned in the Ramah. That's why it's not like we're publicizing this, in the days when the Ola would read. Okay, v'yesh machmirin like us, but davar shaloli krosa lekatan leparsha zachor v'chein leparsha para, and there are those that are machmir not to call a katan even just to get the aliyah. Forget that the Richie's going to lane it, but they're not going to even get the katan and aliyah for parsha zachor or parsha para. Why parsha para? Some hold it's d'oraisa. Right, so next Parshas Para is next. No, it's 2 weeks. Right? I'm crazy. Wait, Parshas Para is.
There's always a skip week.
Next week is a skip week, right? So then we have Parshas Para the following week. No. Not this year. No, I think next week is Para.
Yeah,
Because Mevarchim is the following week, which means you have to read Parshas HaChodesh.
Right, that's the fourth.
So we have right. So Para. Right. So Para. When we read Para, that is v'chein leparshas Para sheyesh omri shegam hi midoraisa. Some say Parshas Para is also doraisa. V'chein hiskim be'Eli Rabba v'derech Chaim, and the Eli Rabba and derech Chaim agree. Katan shouldn't get the aliyos for when it's a doraisa or even suffix doraisa. Okay.
Where is the commandment to read Torah? Like, remember them all?
Like where in the text does it sort of reference that you need to read this?
I mean, the God commandments about the. I'm up that it's something you have to read.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the those who say it's doraisa, where the Torah does it make it? Right. But that's not. Right. Yes, sir.
What?
It was like good Ted or cough. Okay. So I don't know. It's a good question. Maybe this week I should pay attention more carefully in Korea. Those chukas Torah, like after you read the opening pasuk, it gets right into the details of para aduma, and then how you prepare the water, and the third day, and the seventh day, and the sprinkling here and there. Mayim chaim el keli. Like doesn't say like, remember and don't forget, and
Press it on your ear and on your thumb.
That's right. Yeah, I don't, and I have to go back and look at the sources. There's the whole. Well, if you look at actually, you guys, in Steve's cheer, it must have been towards the end of your time there. It talks about the Dalet Parshios, right at the beginning of Hilchos Purim. It mentions there that the para is a suffix d'oraisa, something it is a d'oraisa. Did they give a reason there? Why, or a textual reason?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Unless that's something to do with like a connection to the to Korban Pesach, because that's where this really comes from. The people need to be ready and pure for Korban Pesach,
Right.
so that's why they're reading it before you get to Rosh Chodesh Nisan. You need to be ready.
Right.
That's why para is where it is.
Right.
And by the way, a woman is mechuyev by Korban Pesach
Correct.
for the same reason that we read about the Torah. Sha'af hein hoyu ba'oso hanes.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that's it, that the whole congregation is obligated to hear,
Yeah.
Zachor, and to be pure for Pesach, the part of the Korban.
Right. By the way, why else do we read Shkolim before Rosh Chodesh Adar? It's because they used to collect the Shkolim. That was the communal funds for all the Karbanos. Was that time of the year? So we're recounting historical sort of events.
Women were obligated to give a shekel, so maybe that's why.
They weren't part of the Machatzis shekel count, but that was that time of the year. We do that because that was when they renewed the communal funds to buy the korban, the korban tabid every day on behalf of everybody.
And it's also one of the korbanos that everybody is commanded by achila of the korban.
For Korban Pesach, correct, absolutely, yep. Let's keep going here on the Mishnah Berurah. Uvayom Rishon shel Shavuos, shekoren hamerkava lemaftir. Okay, and on the first day of Shavuos, where the Haftorah is their kava. I'm talking about the chariots from Yechezkel. Okay, and Uvayim b'Shvi shel Pesach shekoren hashira. We read on the seventh day of Pesach. We read in the Haftorah. What's the Haftorah of the seventh day? If I'm not mistaken, it's the Shira also. It's the Shirat David, no?
Don't we also read the
Shira Devorah?
I don't know.
probably?
I think you can look at the back of the sitter, but
Me? I'll look at the back of the sitter.
why don't you go get a sitter? We'll go get a sitter. Any sitter, by the way. It'll be in the back there. No, maybe it's Shira. Actually, Miro. Oh no. Okay, my extra comment explains here. Parshas Hazinu shemaftirim b'Shiras David. Rav Kanievsky points out shekatan yachol alos for that too. Shirak b'Shvi shel Pesach echmiru lefi shehu zman shira ma she'en kein b'Shiras David shekorim b'Parshas Hazinu she'en el haftar be'alma. I want to see that here. What's the haftarah for Shvi shel Pesach? Oh, perfect. I'm right to call on my Pesach already. I'm almost there. Haftorah, seventh day of Pesach. Yeah, it's Shiras. Okay, I was correct. Shirat David. Vayedaber David laHashem et divrei hashira hazot. V'yom yitzil Hashem. Yeah, Shirat David. So I guess we read it again on Hazino. I forgot about that. Okay, so Shirat David. Okay, so we have some special Haftorahs here. Ubeshabbos Shuva. That's when we're Shuva Hashem, Shuva Yisrael. We read a special Haftorah for Shabbat Shuva. Gam kein noagim she'ein korin oso lechatchila lemaftir. When there's a special kriya of the Haftorah, something really special. Shiras David, the Merkava, the chariots. When we have Shabbat Shuva, lechatchila, don't call a katan for that one. That should be an adult should read this serious Inyan. But Shuvas Perach Shoshan, I'm unfamiliar with this sefer. Hela leikar the katan will yikra ba'arba parshios is all Dalet parshios. No katan. The Aviu b'chidusha b'kiva eger paskin as such. No katanim for those parshios. V'olam gam b'shar maftir gam kain. And now we get from the Magen Avram here the comment, which probably was the comment that ruled the day, which is even for other maftirs. Dafka b'katan she'giya lechinuch she'yodea lachtoch ha'osios b'tov u'dlok oslan shemanichin ktanim harbe lomar ha'aftara. He says only katan who can sneak by the gates here of the security for Haftorah are the ones who are Gil Chinuch, and they know Lachtocha Osios Beto. What is Lachtocha Osios? Lachtoch means the cut, right? So I don't exactly the David give a parish of the meal in here. Like, what is it literally? I have my own explanation. What is a lachtoch osios? No, nothing. So I think here imagine like you're trying to form the letters. I think he's trying to say like they know how to form a letter. Like if you lachtoch, if you're trying to like cut a letter out of a you have a piece of paper and you have to cut it out. Like they would have to be talented enough to know how to, they really know their letters very well. They have akara sa'oti, which makes sense, by the way. You shouldn't call somebody up, even an adult who doesn't. Yeah, you shouldn't call anybody up who doesn't understand how to, form letters, because they're not going to be as proficient a reader. So he
Or pronounce the words.
Or pronounce the words. Right, correct. Maybe that's also lachtoch haosga. So to break up the letters, you have to really put things together. He's like, I'm already some science of reading here. How to put syllables together and all the phonics here. Okay. Now he tells you to look in the Be'er Halacha, by the way, about this, where he does quote a lot of the same Makoros, by the way, that we just read. So I am a Mishnah Ramashik. This is the Oba Arba Parshios. I am Mishnah Ramashik Kasad B'Shem Magad Ram the B'Shar Hamaftir Yam Ken B'Katan Shigil Chinov Yodel Lachtoch Haosios V'Chulei. V'Alnius Dati Yesh La'ayin Imi Enu Yachol Hakatan Lo Mamila B'Mila Im Ashat Mitoch Haksav. Ayin Simin Kuflam Tes, which is where Kriyas HaTelchos Kriyas HaTor comes up. Unahid V'Gadol Lo Naha Gula Daktek Bazeh. If it's a katan who gets called up, he has to say it word for word with an adult. The adult has to say the words, and the katan has to repeat it. So at that point, it's like, what are we doing here? Like, anyways. So it is clear for me from reading the Aruch HaShulchan, though, that they did call katanim up for after. We don't do this anymore. It's not our practice. But he did talk about Sfaradim still do it from what I'm aware. Some at least do. But he writes here. Where is this? He quotes slightly the same thing here about the machlokas about Zachar. And if you're matir for Zachar, it's because the gadol is the one who's being motzi them, is the Baal Koreh. But we don't. First day of Shavuos, we don't call a katan. Seventh day of Pesach, Shabbos, Shuva, where you're being the oreb of the nation for tshuva. Ubedino Seinu, he says, Ein manichin akatan. This is at the end of Tezayin. He says we don't call a katan la'alos lamaftir b'chol arba parshios v'nochon hu ve'ein l'shanosh v'dasha akatan she'itiru hu she'yodea u'mevin ha'inyan b'tov. If the kid's gonna get this, you better know his stuff. He better be an ilui. Okay, the im locate ein lahanichol la'alos laTorah. He shouldn't be getting an aliyah b'chlal if he doesn't understand what he's doing. But it's clear to me, even from an earlier comment that the Aruch HaShulchan made, that they did sometimes for maftir call a katan up. They did, and again, this is not our custom anymore. I'm not sure, why this is not why we Dafka never do it anymore. I was actually looking for where he said this because I did see him say it. Maybe we're going to talk about the calling a katan up for an aliyah in general. Where was that sif base? Thank you, Shemaftir. Right. He says, this is in the sif yud in the middle. He says, our minhag today is we only call a katan for maftir. We don't call them for the aliyos. Etc. So, but bottom line is saying, like, there's no reason to not get a katan on aliyah. Our custom is only to do that for maftir. But our minhag today, every shul, we don't do it across the board. That is that's the whole thing there. Let's try to just quickly finish this sif so we can call it a day. Chaf Dalid. Even though there are some who argue in terms of a katan getting the Dalid parshios. Higher da chokim sphere lehu the dafka b'shabbos shekora hamaftir mashakvar kara hashvi Az nuchal likros hakatan. Some who say like only if it's a repetition can a child go again, because then it's not something new. Okay, the child is doing the repetition. It's not as kavadik at that point. It's not as serious of a zachor or a para or whatever. It's a new thing. So a gadol should do a new thing. The katan can do the repetition. The weeks that there's a repetition for maftir. As we just said. Then you say Kaddish after the aliyos before the maftir. There's no chiddush here. I'm not sure whether Ramah's chiddush is here. We didn't say anything new from what the Mechaber said. He just wanted to get at the end that he was just adding in that there's no differentiation if you have a hosafos or no hosafos, 3 Torahs, 1 Torah, no difference. Because the Kaddish is already mentioned by the Mechaber. Okay. Chavav kodem she'oleh hamaftir. That before the maftir, we say Kaddish before the maftir. Hainu b'Shabbos. That's when we do that. Then we say Kaddish afterwards. So I'll point out that's not the case when you do it at Mincha, because you never say Kaddish at Mincha for Kriyas HaTorah. It's only when you read Torah in the morning, which happens on Tisha B'Av. That's when you have a Kriyas HaTorah in the morning with 3 aliyos. Because it's actually Tisha B'Av. It's the 9th of Av.
Tisha B'Av.
Because that's the 9th of Av.
No, Tisha.
Yes, we mush it in and we say Tisha B'Av, but that's not the proper pronunciation, probably. Okay. The Hainu Acha Shemachnisin HaSefer Torah L'Heichal. And that's after we put the Sefer Torah back in the Heichal, which is not true, by the way. That's not what we do. We keep the Sefer. I'm not true. That's not our practice, I should say. We keep the Sefer Torah out until after Haftorah. Actually, that's when we return it to the Aron. So what is he referring to? So in my extra comments there, he says he's referring to that we only say the Kaddish after the maftir, which is also after we put the Torah back. That's at Mincha on a fast day. That's when the next time you say Kaddish is after Chadesh Yamein V'Kedem, and then you do a Chatzi Kaddish before you continue with Amida. So that's what he's referring to there. But that's why I think it was also probably in brackets here, which means that you should read it. But the reality is that the morning of Tisha B'Av, we don't put the Torah away until after the Haftorah is concluded. After Chadesh, after Haftorah is concluded, then we say Yahalalu and boom, like on Shabbos. Okay. Also, when else does that happen? That we don't put the Torah away? Yonah. Okay? We don't put the Torah away. We don't say, we hallelujah and put it. No, we read Yonah and then we pick up the Torah and we put the Torah away. So when he was saying here that you say Kaddish after the maftir during the weekdays, that's correct. And then on a fast day, on the Mincha, it's also after we put the Sefer Torah away, we finally get to the Kaddish, which really is there to end the section. That Kaddish is there, and actually I didn't bring this in today, and I know it's hours late, but Aruch HaShulchan and Rav Moshe Feinstein both make this very clear. Why was the Kaddish added in the first place, the one on Shabbos? It is to demarcate the Kriyas HaTorah that was a must is done, and this is not. It's a different level of Kriyas HaTorah in terms of like
Shabbos we have 2 Kaddish, right? I mean, you have
correct. You have the one between the 7th Aliyah and the Maftir, and then before Musa. Correct, 100%. And yeah.
No, but I'm saying on fast day
It's just the one.
Just one.
It's just the one. But that's because it's like that. On the fast day you only have 3. There's no differentiating the aliyahs. The aliyahs all count equally, sort of in terms of what they're counting towards. The maftir on Shabbos or on Yom Tif or on Yom Kippur is a different count already. Like this guy he's on an island in terms of compared to the other guys who were counted for the Kriyas HaTorah of our day. And that's why there's a Kaddish in there that doesn't make sense on a day when there's only 3 Aliyos. So we don't add that Kaddish. But that Kaddish there is to demarcate the differentiation. Okay. The Ein Omrim Kaddish Ad Shenishlam Haminyan. We don't say Kaddish until we've completed the number of Kruim who are supposed to have come up. L'chol HaMoed Pesach, l'chol HaMoed Sukkos, Omrim Kaddish Achar Shekara Haravi. That's why in the mornings we don't. There are Chol HaMoed Pesach. There are 2 Sifrei Torah. Chol HaMoed Sukkos, 2 Sifrei Torah. We don't Kaddish in between the 3rd and the 4th. We do a Kaddish after 4 because you have to call it 4 people, right? It's not an option. It's Chol HaMoed. You always get 4 Aliyos. So that's when you put the Kaddish after the 4th. The Kaddish is to symbolize we finished the number of Krum. Yeah, there are Hosafos. Okay, once there are Hosafos, we're not going to put the Kaddish after 7. We're going to put the Kaddish after we're done with the Kriyas. So we're done with the number of Aliyos and the Kriyas HaTorah that was obligated of today. Then we say Kaddish. Okay, so that doesn't make sense on a day when there's 3 Aliyos. Okay. I think that's we're good for today.
Excuse me, Rav.
Yeah.
Rav, are you saying that on an ordinary Shabbos, Kaddish is said after the reading of Shvi'i?
Yes. Unless there are Hosafos, meaning that it would be after Achron. But on a typical Shabbos where there are no Hosafos, there is a Chatzi Kaddish after Shvi. Absolutely, yes. That's the whole Yiskada.
And then the minhag about saying a mishaberach for the cholim, etc., happens after that kaddish.
The Mishaberach for Cholim is very much. If you go to one shul, the minhag is to say it after this. There's no standard place to put it. It's somewhere usually around Kriyas HaTorah. Sometimes we'll do it after I remember one of the shul I grew up in, after Chamishi or Shishi. Suddenly there was a big pause. That was back in the days before they had you insert the name by yourself at your seat. It was the days when you used to go up and you had to say the name of the guy by saying the Mishaberach.
But if in a shul you say the mishaberach for the cholim after shishi, that's before you make the final kaddish.
That is before you make the final Kaddish.
Which is said after Shavi'i. Somehow it seems out of.
Wait. Say that one more time for me, Simeon.
If the shul wants to make a mishaberach for the cholim,
Yeah.
can they make it after shishi, not having made the final kaddish, which is said after shvi'i?
I mean, the answer is technically yes, because if you're already having mishaberach for the Ola. By the way, our shul here, we don't do this so much, but I don't think I've ever seen it actually. You have the extra Mishaberach, take everybody. The extra Mishaberachs, where it's Mishaberach, he's there, $1,000 to the shul, and Hashem should bless him and his wife and his sons and his daughters and his grandsons and his granddaughters and his dog and his give him Mishaberach for the whole Gasta Mishpacha, and it's like, we're going to be here till 3 in the afternoon. Okay, let's get on with it. So once we're already doing these kind of mishaberach, of course it makes perfect sense logically. You could also do a mishaberach for cholim. So should it be that maybe we do mishaberach for cholim, after the Kriyas HaTorah, before the Maftir? There's arguments to be made this way or that way. Bottom line is you can make the mishaberach because between aliyos, there's a custom to mishaberach. We give brachos to various people during that time.
I've always had trouble with that because that constitutes a bakasha, and this is Shabbos, and I don't see how that dovetails with what we're limited on doing on Shabbos.
So, Rabbi Weeder, I'm going to take this off the recording so I can not get